4:40ish. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Sure. So can I bring, so Isabel, we weren't sure if Isabel was going to be able to be here at the time we put the agenda together. So I have a Powers Creek Restoration Project update under number 8. I don't know if you want to consider possibly moving that.
Sure,
The
wherever.
other items aren't going to, I don't take, they take too long, but you never know.
She doesn't want to sit here through the whole
She
thing.
may want to. It's very interesting, but I don't know. So that's just something.
So
that,
the chair will entertain a motion to move number 8 up to ahead of just after number 4.
yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
I,
Second that.
Okay, all in favor? Ayes.
Aye.
Do we have an approval for the agenda? Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
the
I'll
agenda is
motion to
ahead of
approve the
public comment.
agenda.
You got any public comment?
Oh, right. Okay.
well,
So,
we have a motion to approve the
Kent, do you have any comments on us rearranging the agenda?
Oh, right. Yeah.
Are they on the table here?
Yes. There was one on the table. There were 2 on the table.
Uh-oh.
Pass
I can share.
Yeah.
You pass it on the
I can
Yeah.
take a picture of mine and share mine.
Stars.
Thanks. Did you have an extra?
No, I printed my own, so
Okay.
which was handy this time.
Yeah, it was.
Somebody here.
The foresight.
So, is there a Kent? What do you have any comments about moving item 8 up on the agenda? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Yeah. Motion to approve.
A second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Agenda is approved. Item 3, public input. The public is invited to present petitions, make announcements, or provide other information to the commission that is relevant to the scope of authority of the city of Blue Lake that is not on the agenda. The commission may provide up to 15 minutes for this public input session. To assure that each individual presentation is heard, the commission may uniformly impose time limits of 3 minutes to each individual presentation. The public will be given the opportunity to address items that are on the agenda at the time the commission takes up each specific agenda item. Mr. Sawatsky, you have the floor.
I wanted to address a few things regarding the attempt of economic development in the Blue Lake area. I worked with Cindy years ago when they had money, they had a development department, and they had competent staff. We're at a great disadvantage that we don't have that. I got clawed back by the state, and they took it away, and it was kind of one of the bonehead moves they did, but they used it to balance their other budgets during hard times. I think
It sure helped, hasn't it?
it helped a lot, yeah. And so, I was pleased to see that. Sounds like Del Arte's fundraising has gone well. I saw an article today where they got more than they hoped for, which is kind of one of the last economic drivers we have in our downtown area, other than Logger Bar. We have them. So it's sometimes it's blamed as far as not having tenants come into the areas, and it's blamed on quote unquote the landlords. And I think there's a misconception here. A landlord has to get a certain amount of rent from their property to just break even on it if you have tenants in there, if you do or if you don't, either way. But without having a redevelopment department or some way to go ahead and put the tenants and landlords, potential tenants and landlords together to enable people to keep things going. We're going to talk about a few other things regarding other kinds of rentals. But without that, you're going to end up just like every other area, you'll end up with a commercial ghost town. And one of the most difficult things is if you do have something you're trying to revitalize, and then if somebody comes in and puts a strip mall out of the area from your downtown, and then people go there, you have your discount, you have your dollar stores and all those kind of things. So you really want to keep your commercial use centered as much as you can. It's something to look at, and I think you actually need to look at it from a practical viewpoint. In Blue Lake, only has 1,200 people. There's no basis here as far as people having a retail business. Tried it for many years with the Emporium, and I think I've explained that one to you guys before. So it was an experiment. I think you're going to find that regarding your economy here, it's basically a bedroom economy. You're going to get your functions, your Del Arte, and those will be great for a little while. One of the biggest things you do need to keep To have these kind of functions, whether it's a big Dilardi thing or the Christmas thing, you need to have your parking. You can't be eliminating your parking places. So when you start eliminating your parking places, then there is no way for anybody to park within 6 blocks of your function here. So strongly support you don't curtail parking and find some way to help the people who would like to work on their buildings. The CBDG or loan or whatever it is, the county will now administer those. They're taking over for a couple of cities. I think Rio Dell and one other city, they're actually administering that. We have some funds. We'll talk about that a little bit later also. And all you have to do is, my understanding, having qualified individuals, not just a demographic. But Cindy probably could tell you more about that stuff. She was an expert in that stuff. So
Long time ago.
long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, I understand. I understand the county's going into that particular thing. You might want to check into.
Thank you, Kent. Is there, moving on to item 4, is there a motion to approve the minutes from the previous 3 meetings?
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Motion approved. Or second that?
Okay, having reviewed the minutes, I have no changes, and all in favor of approving the minutes as submitted?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Does the public have any comments on the minutes that were previously submitted? Thank you. Item 5, Greenwood Road Improvement Project Review. Oh, right. Thank you.
We're moving you up. Yes.
So is it okay if I sit or should I stand?
Whatever you like.
What's best for Justin? What's
Yeah,
best for you?
I think it's stand over there. I think if the remote will work. I don't know to click through. If not, I can click it for you. Back in. Right, so yes, my clicker. I think all we have to do is the arrow here. Okay. Okay, well, we can probably start there. So this is not just a update on the Power 3 project, but it's also a little bit about Ottawa Watershed Council, because we do have a new name and we are sort of rebranding and reintroducing ourselves to the community. Our mission is up there. We are a local nonprofit based in Blue Lake, and we are dedicated to conserving and protecting the Mad River and its tributaries, the whole watershed. You can click. Are the three main points that we focus on are restoration. So those are actual projects that are restoring the integrity of the ecology. Education and outreach is getting the word out there to the community about the Mad River, because it is a little lesser known, lesser celebrated river in our Six Rivers National Forest. It is one of the most overutilized rivers as well, because it is where most of our drinking water comes from up here in Blue Lake, Arcata, McKinleyville, and Eureka. And then the third part is monitoring, which is an important, integral piece to what we do. And it's how we keep track of the health of our watershed and how we monitor the ecology and the life that is a huge part of the river. The reason why this is so important is because the Mad River is extremely utilized and impacted by human activity. And we have been operating since 2011. We were previously known as the Mad River Alliance. And we work in collaboration with the city of Blue Lake, with the Rancheria, with the Wiyot tribe, with state, county, and federal agencies to ensure the work that we do is protecting and restoring the river. So we do a lot of our work based with volunteers. A lot of people come out and survey the river for summer steelhead. We'd also do a lot of other projects and events with volunteers. And we rely on the community to help us with achieving our goals of restoring, maintaining, and doing outreach.
This is an example of an invasive species removal event that we did, and a trash cleanup. We removed over 1,000 cubic yards of trash from the river. We did that one in the spring, and it was very interesting the things we found. That this is a little bit of information on why, or the fact that we did change our name and that we officially changed our name in May. So we are now the Bottawat Watershed Council rather than Mad River Alliance. You can go to the next. And the reason is because for the Wiyot people, the name of the river has always been Bottawat, and we wanted to pay homage to the original stewards of the river and um, return back to that traditional name. This is a little bit about the river being the source of 90,000 community members. It's also recognized as a climate refuge and provides habitat for a wide array of wildlife and is critical to the health of the Humboldt ecosystem. Now we're getting into the Powers Creek project. So this is the main grant project that our organization has right now. We are in partnership with the city of Blue Lake to restore, and it's a grant awarded by the Department of Water Resources, California Department of Water Resources, and it is a grant to restore a portion of Powers Creek. Are all of you guys familiar with where Powers Creek is?
Yeah.
Okay. And so we are just going to be starting breaking ground in the spring, which is really exciting because most of the work that's occurred so far has all been planning work. We've been looking at the plans, revising the plans, working with SHN, the engineering service, to rework the plans that were already in place. And so we are now in the spring going to officially start the actual restoration. This is an example of what that restoration is going to look like. You can see that we will be removing invasive species and replacing them with native species plantings.
That whole section, how far up does it go?
It's not that long of a
Plenty
section.
of work in there to do.
Basically, it's the city's property.
Right.
Section.
Yes.
So that way
So
we have
from
to-
the bridge to the road, basically.
Or to the post office and beyond.
No, it's going to be just the section almost to Hatchery Road
Oh,
behind
okay.
the Gymkhana grounds.
Okay.
And then down to kind of where the bike park area is, because that section starts to merge into Gary Johnson's property.
And we did receive funding to write a plan for the restoration of that additional portion of the creek, but our implementation money is only for the part that the city is owning. So then you can see that we're going to be adding large woody debris, which will allow for larger scours, which provide habitat for fish, keeping the water cooler, allowing a lower flow channel to be formed. And then, yeah, that's pretty much the idea of what we're going to be doing, and kind of doing some recontouring because it's pretty straight.
And
And-
removing some ground, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
Very exciting.
This is just the thank you. We are a nonprofit, so we do a lot of fundraising, and I got cut off at the bottom, but Los Bagels is also on there, and a few others. Wild Berries got cut off, but just wanted to say thank you to our local sponsors, and we had a really awesome fundraising effort this year. We hope to continue that again this last year, and we hope to continue it again this year in 2024. And then we had a lot of volunteer effort. Like I said, that we had a really awesome kids group that came out, a youth group, church youth group that came out and did invasive species removal. We worked with the California Conservation Corps to do another invasive species event. So it was really fun. And this is just a call to action because with the grant project, it does require a lot of waiting, and bureaucratic tie-ups make the funding come through really slow. So in the process of implementing the grant, in addition to doing restoration work, we still want to continue to do our education, our outreach, our monitoring work. So we still are calling for donations, and the unrestricted funds go to continuing our operations and expanding our operations so we can do more work and apply for more grants. So if you guys know anyone, or if you can think of a donor that would be interested in donating, I highly recommend you put our name out there for funding. And I also have a little notebook there where you can put down any contact information you think would be applicable. And I'd love to hear if anybody has any questions.
I'd like to know more about what sort of invasive species we should be looking for and ripping out of our yards, other than just the blackberries and
And the pampas
like.
grass.
I mean, do you have like a 10? Yeah, it's been out there.
It's so
scary.
pretty though.
Yeah, definitely the pampas grass, the pampas. I like to call it pampas grass because it's all high and mighty. The Himalayan blackberry, of course. No, poison oak's not invasive.
English ivy.
the
there's
ivy,
periwinkle.
Yep, the periwinkle, the ivy. There was one. Gosh, now I can't remember.
Teasel. Is that I don't know.
That's
what
a native
it
species.
is a native.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
it takes over
Yeah.
the yard given the opportunity.
I'm trying to think.
As
There
long as
was
it's friendly.
Yeah.
I forget the name of it, but it's kind of it's got the yellow flowers.
The oxalis.
Scotch broom.
Yes.
Oh, those. Yes.
I should have a list.
Too. I like those.
They are. I mean, the thing is, like, from a
But they don't stay in their spot.
they're invasive and they're also fire hazard. They're very combustible, but they
That's
have
one
nice flowers and the pollinators like them. So but
There was a shot with the a shot from above that showed some colored areas blue
mhm.
and then green for the creek. And then I was wondering what the blue on that was.
Let's go
I
back
think
and
that's
look.
probably the floodplain. That's
Or 100-year flood.
Yeah.
Oops. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, so that's the existing channel is the green. The blue is the floodplain, I believe, 100-year, pretty sure. And so that there's a text box there, but
Problem with that.
mhm,
Let's
right, because the flows are so different now. The water that we're dealing with now is so different than 100 years ago. So it is hard to determine what a 100-year flood event would look like 100 years from now because everything's changing so rapidly.
Does that kind of change because when they put the levees up and
the levees, there's a levee along one of the banks on that model that didn't get put into the model that keeps the creek within the channel. So there's a lot of issues.
because I don't think you've had flooding there.
This model shows like it flooding all the way to my house.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Take into consideration that there's sidewalks and drainage and houses and
Mhm.
infrastructure.
and a lot of the graphics that I had access to are initial planning documents that we went into originally, and we've since had to rework those multiple times. So this isn't something that is the most recent iteration of the floodplain. I still haven't seen some of the new documents that have come out from SHN, so I'm looking forward to having a meeting with them and with Mandy, and we're gonna really get the wheels turning for spring.
Yeah, it was kind of a base model, and then all of the constrictions and things had to be put back into it to be able to come up with a more actual floodplain.
And I wanted to bring up something, and that is that as a property owner on Glendale, we're working on restoring Noisy Creek, Hall
Mhm.
Creek, and then down the way Lindsay Creek. And we're working with you along
Mhm.
with Trout Unlimited
Yeah.
to get the funding to do that.
Yeah.
And I think Trout Unlimited put in a grant application. And so we're waiting on pins and needles to get, because we put it in last year and it wasn't big enough.
Mhm.
So
And
yeah.
now I've met with Daisy,
Uh-huh.
who's the local representative for Trout Unlimited, and it would basically be a plan to restore the entire bottom portion from Glendale onto the estuary. So it's a huge project, and
Wow.
if we get the funding, it's going to be massive and really impactful. And I should mention that our mission as the Bottawat, one of our main goals as an organization is to get a basin management plan that spans from the estuary all the way up to the headwaters so that everybody that lives along the river understands what it is required to manage the water properly and to not have a significant detrimental impact. So this would be a huge first step in that direction, and I'm really looking forward to working on that project once it's funded.
And I feel that we will be, I think, because we did expand it. And one of the things that's been really fascinating for me is I always knew that there was fish in the creek. You know, I grew up there and I thought, oh, yeah, there's fish. And there were people who would come when we had big salmon runs and they'd bring their pitchforks and all that kind of stuff, which we did not like. But we had an opportunity. One of our neighbors actually took pictures of the fish in the water. And there were so many little fingerlings that were
Um,
that little cohos and it just sort of gave me a whole new realization and appreciation for what's happening down there. And that's what's gotten all the other agencies and stuff interested in getting it going.
mhm.
It's amazing.
The pictures of the fingerlings?
Yeah. Because in the pools, you got these pools and you go, isn't it a nice little, it's a nice pool. And then you put the camera down there and go, holy Moses. It's just teeming with life.
Mhm.
That's pretty cool.
It is. And actually, we will be sharing those along the way because I don't know if you got those from Joseph or not.
Yes, I did. I got a lot of really good material from Joseph, and we had a potluck here at the Grange in the fall, and I put up a lot of his pictures all over the walls so people could see what we're fighting for.
And I have an appreciation for that just because I grew up there and I want to be a good caretaker for the wildlife and the natural resources that are there.
We're going to be having more events coming up. We're going to be hosting March Madness Water Day on World Water Day, which I believe is the 22nd of March. So I'll definitely be sending that to you, any info about events that we host to Mandy, so you can send it out to anyone who's interested. It's going to be fun. It's kind of to draw attention to the long-term temperature study that we've been doing over the past 15 years almost, to monitor how the water temperatures are changing seasonally and throughout the years. And we're going to encourage anybody who wants to come out and do a kind of polar bear type plunge in March. You get a t-shirt
Yeah,
and
yeah, not me.
you don't have to jump in the water, but we're going to have hot beverages and we're going to do a contest with local students to see who can design a cool t-shirt to promote our long-term temperature study and what we're doing to make sure that the fish are well cared for.
How do we find out more about what's going on an ongoing basis? Is it on your website or social media?
Yes,
Is there an email list?
We have an email list. We also have a social media. Ottawa Watershed Council .org is our website. And we have a Facebook page, which I'm just starting to get access to. But we're definitely on Instagram. I think it's Bottawat_watershed_council. And the email list, if you are interested in being on the email list, I can pass this book around. You can write your email addresses down. But I do send stuff to Mandy. She helps me get stuff out. Anybody wants to can pass it along. You guys all have pens, I'm sure. Yeah, so that's something that I'm definitely working on is doing the outreach and getting everybody aware of what it is that we're trying to do. We had a really awesome end of the year celebration at Six Rivers Brewery, and Kingfoot the band played. It was really sweet. We honored one of our elder founding members, Don Allen. He's retiring now, so yeah, it was nice.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah, thanks for coming, Isabel.
my pleasure.
This is really exciting to hear.
I know, I'm really excited about it, and I'm really excited to see what else we're going to do too. And it feels really great to be breaking ground this year because this project has been so long in development.
Are youth and schools involved in this process? Because they're going to be the stewards of the future.
That is definitely part of our education and outreach program. And so the first thing on my list for that was going to be to get schools involved in this contest to design the shirts for the March River Plunge. And that's going to help them become aware of what it is we're doing, who we are as an organization, and then we can get more kids involved when we're actually having planting days. I don't want, we don't want kids out there all the time, but on certain days when we're going to be planting things, or, if the class wants to come out and observe the work afterward or something, I think that that would be appropriate.
If on one of your work days where people get together and are pulling weeds or whatever, if you want to do some kind of coupon to them or some
Mm-hmm.
piece of paper that lets them know that yeah they participated, I could do like $1 off coupon at the doghouse,
Oh, that'd be so
little
nice.
reward for.
That would be lovely. Thank you.
And as
And
well,
I have your contact now. Yes, in there.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect.
and I was gonna let you know too, the Parks and Rec now has a heat press for making shirts and sweatshirts.
cool.
And so it would be great to be able to partner with you to maybe be able to come up with maybe some merchandise stuff that we can
That would be
make
so.
and merchandise for you, and just have a nice kind of collaboration between Parks and Rec and
I love that idea. We're gonna have a meeting.
yes.
What's your week like next week? We can schedule it later.
Send me an invite.
Well, it was very lovely. I really appreciate all of your guys' time and attention, and I don't want to run out, but I do have other obligations this evening.
Kent, did you have any questions or
Yeah.
comments?
Yeah.
I grew up on the upper reaches of Powers Creek, um, Buckley Road, mile up the hill, and there always were fish up there in the creek. So I was just curious. That was just the holding pond up top. You're talking about a summer run of steelhead, and do you have a fish count for that? And I assume it's not does the summer run go up Powers Creek? Because I wouldn't assume they can. So that would be in the main body of the thing. I did wish to bring to your attention something very important. Last night at the public safety meeting, the guy who runs the thing down here, Mandy could give me his name right now. But anyway, the chair was mentioning that he's not getting cooperation from Green Diamond to enable them to harvest the fish that they need to improve the genetics. In other words, we got some bad players, and they used to be really good and friendly about it. So anybody who has any pressure, you might want to put on them. And I think the pressure you can do would be that I think Cal Trout or somebody should do a walk up the North Fork of the Mad River, because there's a natural or not quite so natural impediment to the fish, and so they no longer have to have any constraints regarding that being a blue line to log to. So if they want to play hardball, we can go up there and they can have 300 or 500-foot setbacks, so they can't log a lot of their watershed up there. And it does distress me when you have a partner who's been good with us for all these years. And somebody said they just kind of sounded like they wanted to keep it so that only their employees could go fishing up in those areas rather than doing the harvesting. So you might want to go directly to the hatchery and speak with our person down there. But that was very distressing for me to hear, partnership to go away. And of course, partnering with our tribes and our businesses should work. So you might want to check into that one. And if you need any help on that thing, I can give you my email, because I can do political pressure on people like Green Diamond. So
Sounds like you have a wealth of knowledge.
And just so you're aware, Kent, Green Diamond is not being totally stonewalled with that program. We are allowed access to certain areas with certain people, so it's not completely turned off. It's just it takes a long time to get them to allow access in certain areas, because as you know, they're a very private organization and they have a lot going on. And so I just wanted to make that comment that they're not being completely, yeah,
a little bit educated.
yeah,
But it was the opposite before we had full access.
that is true.
I think when Ryerson,
That is true.
we had worked
Yeah, with Gary. Yeah.
Take the working relationship on the light thing and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is one thing that does is very distressing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's just a more restricted version of what we had with Gary. I think that there were a lot of people going up there and potentially bringing other people who weren't a part of the program. Yeah, and I think that that's where it comes from. And so, I'm one of the people who has clearance for Green Diamond to go up to those reaches. And
So it should be nice to reach out to the fish hatchery, because I got the opposite opinion from him last night. So
yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'll have to ask Jason where that's coming from. But yeah, I mean, there is clear and written access to certain the 4200 road and the 5000 road up to certain areas. So
I worked with Dave Farrell back in the day. That he was one of the that didn't do it. I need to check my name. I need to look. There you go.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Isabel.
Thank you, Isabel.
This is really exciting.
Yeah.
thanks, Isabel.
I'm sure this will not be the last you'll hear us give me for sure.
Great. Great. Looking forward to it.
That's awesome.
Okay, so continuing on item 8, is that
5.
5? Back to number, well, 8
Back to 5.
All of 8 really quick.
probably.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
Because I don't think we pulled them out by sub-topic there. So RV parking campground. Right now we're working with some representatives of Lake Power on a dismantling project. As you guys know, the city has also filed a legal action against Lake Power for damages and site control. So that's also moving kind of a parallel path. We're working with the dismantlers on a, oh, sorry. Working with the dismantlers on the permits. Those are being reviewed by our engineers and our building official. And so that's a good, right now we have a good open dialogue about that. So I'm really happy how that's progressing. The goal with the city, once we do attain site control again, that we have opportunities to repurpose that property for revenue for the city. So that is ongoing. We haven't released the draft plan for the RV park yet. We're going to be doing that probably in the spring. We're still making some refinements to that as we were able to get an extension on our grant to expend the remaining funds through EDA. So we're tying that into a larger master plan, and then a potential will be a recommendation for a subdivision of the properties for council's consideration. So we're kind of waiting till that all comes together in case there's anything through that process that they want to make recommendations on kind of the overall design or scope of the project. So that is a work in progress. The Bottlewatt Community Project, that is the Danco project, that is also moving ahead. That'll be going to the Planning Commission for review and consideration. We're also running that parallel path for our housing element. A lot of work has been done through the CEQA process, lots of studies, and just kind of looking holistically at kind of all of that. So that's making its way through staff. And then like I said, we'll be going to the Planning Commission. Northern side of Taylor Way Master Plan. I already talked about that. That's part of the RV Garden Campground. Taylor Way Master Plan and road improvements. So we have a project with Dan Burden to look at Taylor Way and looking kind of what the layout and plan is for Taylor Way as we're looking at kind of this master development plan, looking at all the different types of uses along the Powers Creek district and kind of how Taylor Way starts to take shape as development starts to come to fruition. So, looking at access, looking at pedestrian crossings, looking at vehicular turnarounds and sidewalks, and all of that starts to come into play. So right now it's a really big, straight piece of real estate that has a lot of potential to be reworked and repurposed through development to make it a really nice, walkable and safe.
Slow people down
Slow
too.
people down. Yes. So that's also being worked on as well.
And is that just in the planning phase?
No, so we've actually so Dan Burden, he's done a lot of review of kind of the developments that we have proposed. SHN had come up with some ideas on road improvements. Dan's looked at that kind of, overall looking at how all these pieces connect. So we've got some really good data from him. Things will kind of change as development changes. There's different needs, different parking configurations, but it's given us a good opportunity to look at what the carrying capacity is of Taylor Way and just what those considerations are. So when you look at different
safety improvements and elements, creating gateways, creating bike lanes, creating safe pedestrian crossings, connectivity, all of that starts to get looked at and laid out based upon what those different types of uses are. So, yeah, so we're going to have some really good data and some potential designs for future consideration.
What about the bike park that's moving along?
Oh yeah,
Any
gosh.
stuff moving over
The bike park. Yeah, the bike park is moving along. If you've been down there, you'll see that there's a lot of work that's been done. We've been very fortunate that Thomas King and his family and the company have donated a lot of time and resources and honestly money towards the project. And so uh, Dana Creech, I believe Dana's last name is. He's a professional motocross rider and builds tracks. And so he is a really good friend of Tavis's, who is also a professional motocross rider. They love building tracks. And so when they heard that we were going to be doing the bike park, Tavis immediately came and was like, we want to help out. Let us get in there with our equipment first
It's
because
amazing.
Yeah,
we
it
want
looks
to
great
do it
down there.
right.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty it's gonna be pretty epic. I think it's gone from a project like RCMBA was really the dreamers of the project and brought it and really got it kicked off and really got the city enthusiastic about it. And we looked at how could we bring this development to fruition with just like this grassroots effort and local fundraising and trying to find dirt wherever we could and just wheelbarrows and shovels basically to now having Pepe's given us the use of a ton of his equipment. Dana's out there working the equipment, building it. Tavis has just been amazing and has given so much to the project. And then all the volunteers with RCMBA who are, volunteering, fundraising. And, in the spring, we'll have a lot more opportunity for volunteers to get involved and we'll have a lot more opportunities for the kids to get involved. Right now, it's really more of like the
Like
technical details with the big equipment. And we're kind of buttoned up for the winter now. So.
is it a dirt track in its finality?
So a portion of it's a dirt track, and then we have a proposed paved pump track. But the thought is the way this track is being laid out, it would make a lot of sense to cap it and have it paved because it's going to be a pretty epic track. It's not going to be, when we first started working on it, it was kind of like, we can build some dirt jumps, we can, do this kind of,
It looks like a
ourselves.
project now.
But now it's really taking on a more professional,
Would capping it preserve it?
yeah, yeah. And I think what we have to cap it with is like a granite material because you don't want this part of it paved. You still
No.
want this to be the dirt portion of it.
Sure, because
But
you want
it's,
some ruts and
yeah, and
little things.
I guess, I don't know. But yeah, so it's kind of like a granite. So we're going to have to source some materials as we go along. We're working on a fundraiser right now. We're talking about it, doing kind of a karaoke show night at Crash where we have food and karaoke and drinks and kind of make it more of like almost like a performance as well though, trying to attract some kind of ringers, in the community that can come and sing as well and
I got no
just make a
control
fun night of it. So we thought we might do that for our first kind of our kickoff of our the next round of fundraising for that. So we're just looking at bringing in requests. Yeah, I think it'll be really fun. Um, but yeah, we still definitely need some material and it's a good project. It's a good project to be phased, so as we keep going, we can, we didn't get the grant, the Clean California grant. They did like two or three really large grants and didn't really give out any little ones. So that was a little disappointing, but the grants that were given out were great. They'll make huge impacts in the communities that got them, but there'll be other opportunities and funding sources and, a lot of it's dirt
and and asphalt eventually.
We
So
should have enough of that around Humboldt
yeah,
County.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got, we're surrounded by resource guys, like I said, Pepe's
Right.
been amazing.
That's
And
so
we have
good.
Kernan, with their batch plant.
For
So,
sure.
once we get to the point where we do need asphalt for the pump track, hopefully we can work with them to come up with a plan. And yeah, so we're just going to keep working at it. But yeah, it'll
Great.
be pretty exciting.
Good project.
Yeah. It's going to be nice because kind of now the idea with the creek restoration is going to be such a huge focal point of the Powers Creek district. And we've always, when we wrote the opportunity zone, we wrote it with the creek as the focal point. And so when we looked at setbacks and heights and different restrictions and development patterns, it was really to also showcase that creek because
There's so
it's
many birds over there.
oh, it's amazing. It's amazing habitat. And it's just, and it's to see it brought back to life. Because I mean, even when I was a kid, like we could swim in the creek in portions of it. Yeah. I mean, we used to dam it up, and there was a big hole right behind the Gymkhana grounds. And I think they used to take gravel out of it because I used to swim my horse in it. Like after Gymkhanas, we would take saddles off and swim the horses through
So
there and
there's
stuff.
more seasonal flow.
There was a lot more seasonal flow. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was unpermitted use.
It was very different. Yeah. Yeah, it was a
Just
very
before
different
a lot
creek.
of it was siphoned off.
Yeah, yeah. So it'll be great to see it come back to life and to have those interaction opportunities. So as we're looking at the developments down there, we're also looking at how the trail is developed and improved. And so there's thoughts about even creating like secondary trails off the main trail that will be like jump features for the bikes so they can kind of roll into the bike park and so I think it'll be really fun. It's going to be give a lot of opportunity. So
I like the idea of capping it too, because that was one of my comments was going to be the continued maintenance of it,
yeah.
especially with heavy winters and
Oh
different
yeah,
things like that.
yeah.
It
The
can
rain
wash
is.
away.
Yeah, it's a clay material that we're using, so
Okay.
it's gonna harden up, and we have a specific type of material we're using for it, but it doesn't. I mean, you still need to have something to for the longevity.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
yeah.
Thank you, Mandy. Does public have any input on item 8 that we did after item 4? I'm just going to call it 8 out of order. So that will bring us up to item 5, the Greenwood Road Improvement Project review presentation.
Yeah, so we are going to be going to council, sorry, on the 16th for a special meeting. The 90% was fine. Go ahead. So this is the Greenwood Road project. Do you guys want?
Think so.
I didn't get. I didn't.
They
pick
were
up-
on the table.
They're on the table.
You have the whole thing?
I don't know. I have 2 pages.
It's this one, Darcy.
I do not have that.
Portions of it.
Okay, thanks.
Right. Do you want one of those?
I didn't get one, Mandy. I didn't get one.
So we're at the 90% design stage on the Greenwood Road improvements. This is a section of the overall truck route project that the city has received funding for. So we've received funding to design improvements to the truck route, basically from the intersection of Greenwood and the Blake Boulevard down to the city property just past Taylor Way. We've received construction funding for the section of Greenwood from the intersection of Blake Boulevard and Greenwood to just past City Hall here on the bend. So we've been working for a number of years on this project. We've gone through several design reviews, outreach, community meetings, presentations. We've met with a lot of different interest groups. We've met with the industrial truck route group. We've met with the school, the fire department. We've presented this to all of our commissions at some point in the process. Like I said, this has been going on for years. It actually started right during COVID, which was kind of a bummer because it really precluded us from doing more hands-on outreach. And so we had to come up with ways to do like bulletin boards outside with post-it notes so people could
socially distance but give feedback. The project is going to it kind of does a few things. The biggest thing is it's going to slow down traffic on Greenwood. Second, it's going to provide a safer access for pedestrians and bicyclists, especially the children getting to school. So we're going to be improving the sidewalks on the western side of Greenwood. We're going to extend those sidewalks out so they're almost, I think, 7 feet wide. Because part of our problem is we have utility poles that are set right in the middle of the sidewalks. And that when you have utility poles, you also have guy wires. And so we have kind of this double whammy of features. We also have fire hydrants in weird.
Put the utilities underground.
So we tried, and PG&E basically told us, like, good luck. Like they're so far out when it comes to making any of those type improvements in this type of situation. That they were just, and the cost was very prohibitive too, even if we could get any authorization. So this project is going to install some raised crosswalks. It will
That's
install,
those in front of the school there.
yeah. So it's
Does it
going,
double as a speed bump?
yes.
Okay.
So they won't be, the steep ones because it has to be designed to accommodate the trucks. It does provide some drainage features. It meets ADA requirements for access and crossings. Drop curbs. Right now we have sidewalks with curbs that don't have drop curbs. So if anyone's in a wheelchair or anything, there's no way to exit those portions of the sidewalk. We have sidewalks that are failing right now, and then we have really narrow sidewalks as well. So what we find is when kids are going to school, if they're on the sidewalk, when they get to a utility pole, they usually jump off the sidewalk into the street. And, they're right in the path of travel for trucks and cars. It's just extremely dangerous. So, so this is a great project.
We had a logging truck out there.
What's that?
This was there an accident with a logging truck.
We did, yeah, up on the boulevard. Yeah. So when you look at some of the examples, in designing this, we had to be cognizant of turn radiuses and widths and the needs of the trucks. So we were able to work with SHN, as engineers, they have a lot of um, computer analysis capacity to run models. So they have turn radius models and things that model trucks and travelways and stuff. So we started out with that information, and then we brought that information to the truck drivers themselves and said, hey, check this out. Is this going to work? And they're like, yeah, that'll work. That's not going to work. This will work for this, blah, blah, blah. So we were able to then make some changes to the design to a point where everyone feels pretty comfortable with it. This will allow for some beautification. We'll have some planters and maybe some trees. But ultimately, that all is great except when you have to maintain it. And what we're finding with our LID features and stuff, it's just a lot of work, and we don't really have the capacity to maintain it. So we're looking at more like raised planters where they're easier to weed and maintain, and you can even change out for annuals and things. So
native vegetation.
yeah, I mean, even the native vegetation
Still
gets
requires
overtaken by
weeding.
the invasives.
Yep.
And we're finding it in all our LID features on the trail, and they are a
Yeah.
monster to try and deal with. I mean,
Those
there's
blackberries are
some,
evil.
I don't know what is growing in that LID up by,
What's that LID?
it's a low, what is it? A low intensity drainage. So it's basically the drain. So the water, it's a drainage feature.
Is it sort of a
So
ditch, a drainage
it's,
ditch?
well, it's kind of like a curbed area, and you can plant it, but
Gotcha.
it usually has rock in it. So the
Like on the trail here?
yeah, well, down at the
Over by
yeah,
the
down in
museum.
portions.
Oh,
Yes,
gotcha,
yeah,
gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha.
So
Yeah.
your drainage comes in and it filters through
Yeah.
the system
Yeah.
before it goes into your waste stream. So, but
I
yeah,
have a will this affect the on-street parking needs of the neighborhood and the staff that work at the school?
yeah, so that was one of our big concerns was taking away parking. Originally, we talked about eliminating parking on the west side to be able to get both sides of the road have adequate sidewalks. And in looking at doing that, it just didn't seem reasonable because we have some houses that when they increased the width of Greenwood, it placed the road right on top of people's houses, and it took away some people's capacity to have off-street parking as well. So it really shortened things up. So we didn't want to impact that any more than we needed to. So these bulb outs, there will be a few bulb outs that take away some areas of parking. Um, but there's really no way around it because these usually are where the guy wires are. And so we just can't get around it. So we have to be able to have that extra space in order to get the width that we're required to. They also just passed some new regulations under the PROWAG, and I don't even know what that stands for. But it's basically like the ADA requirements. And so those have gotten more strict. And so this plan has to meet those PROWAG requirements. And so we're going to lose a few parking spots, but we're going to gain safety, um, and I think a more
And slower
efficient.
traffic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean you can sit on Greenwood all day long and watch people just fly through, and we're just when an accident does happen, it could be catastrophic. And so this is a real need. So we're going to be taking this to council on the 16th. We have to have a special meeting because the CTC, the California Transportation Commission, who has to approve this, meets the week after, and they have to have it in time for or 2 weeks after. They have to have it in time for their agenda to be able to get it into their packet to make the approval. Our goal by kind of doing this quickly is we want to be out to bid in the spring and then go to construction in the summer. So we need to construct when the
When
kids
the
aren't in
schools are-
school
yeah.
because it's going to be a big impact to that area, and we can't have construction going on when school's in session. It would just be a complete zoo. So we're going to go out to bid in the spring, go to construction in the summer. We'll start up at the top. And so we can get that section done first and prioritize it. And then if we have impacts coming down, that's a little bit easier to manage. Um, as with the rest of the truck route, that'll be separate construction funding requests in the future. So we're still working with the truck drivers on some of the areas that we talked about. We've just got some weird, intersections and spaces in town that, it's really hard to figure out like what's the best use of the space or what makes sense. What we found though is really the best option is just for people to go slower. If you slow down, you can make the turn. If you slow down, we can all travel on that pathway safely. And so, and that's something we talked a lot about with Green Diamond and Pepe and North Fork and Scott and stuff was just about, coexisting. As our economy changes and our community changes, we're not the same industrial town that we used to be. And so we have different needs. Does that mean we can't coexist? Absolutely not. We absolutely can coexist and we can all prosper as well. We just need to make a few concessions and they're not unreasonable. So
Well, when
that's
you
what this
bring
plan's
up
about.
the fact that people need to slow down, when I'm at the museum, it it's very challenging.
Hmm.
They kind of just race around there and then it's
Slow. Don't really stop.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's what we found. People aren't necessarily going to do the right thing. And, a lot of people do, probably the majority of the people do in this community, but there is, a percentage of the community and people who come into the community that don't do the right thing. And so we physically have to slow them down. And that's what, this design looks at is kind of those physical barriers to speeding. So,
Just a clarification
Mhm.
question. So looking Greenwood Ave Chokers looking north, and then Greenwood Ave Parking looking north. Is it alternating between 13 feet of driving lane and 11 feet of driving lane as it kind of progresses past, I assume these are the chokers, the
Yeah,
kind
so
of raised.
so the turn coming on to Greenwood,
Uh-huh.
the trucks have to be able to make that larger
Right.
turn and swing. So the improvements there, we have a mountable curb in place. So right now it's painted. It encourages people to stay within their lane and not cut that corner, knowing though that the trucks have to cut it. So that area is wider and then it will be neck down. When you see the chokers though, the important thing to remember to know is that those are the same width as if a car was parked there. So it looks a lot narrower, but it's really no different than if a car was parked there, which, that's all would be
There's a
parking.
bike lane on here.
So there's no bike lane, so the sidewalk becomes a bike lane. And that
Hmm.
was one of our issues was we were really nervous about putting in a bike lane because we didn't have the capacity to create a barrier. And so you're encouraging children to ride basically right next to the trucks and people coming through. So we decided that the best use of the space would be to make the sidewalks extended so that your bike basically you have a sidewalk that acts as your bike path. And so it's wide enough for pedestrians and bicyclists to go to kind of coexist along that. But it keeps the kids up and off the street.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does the public have any input on the Greenwood Road Improvement Project?
There's, the map, I guess she said on the right-hand side, but boy, my map on the left-hand side, but I think it's on the opposite originally when we were talking about losing parking. Oh, to orient my map is it's on here. Um, I look at this project and the lack of non-pedestrian with kids, like you say, jumping in the street and jumping around and the bicycles being the same thing is a problem to me. Um, and I look at that particular project there, and I know it's possibly not on the city's thing, but if the actual sidewalk was widened instead of bulb outs, uh, was widened to go up to the fence of the existing school ground instead, you're going to lose some trees, you're going to lose some things there, but then you would have it looked like an average of 3 to 4 feet there, straight shot. Guy wires can be relocated. Those poles can be re-engineered even so that they don't need guy wires under certain circumstances. So I never let those be a constraint to me. Um, the children, quote unquote, jumping out in the street, of course, they have 5 foot to jump out in the street, and they're the same as the car park there, as was forward before. But I do worry. I kind of look at the map, and I don't know if you see it, and I don't even have. It doesn't say which street it is, but it sure would be nice. We have a very wide street, 2 streets to the right, looking to the north up there on your picture on your right hand side. Looks like a very wide street, and it sure would be nice to have some kind of alternative bike route in there someday, possibly. That's quite wide. I like the wide streets. Everybody in Blue Lake, most people like the wide streets. It's safe for bicycles, dogs, people to walk there when they're not on the sidewalk and things. But that might be an alternative bike route. And then, of course, coming back over a C Street, which goes basically straight into the school approximately. Some of those common sense engineering things might be accomplished. And that should be a long-term goal. I mean, I think to have a safe bike route. So I know that's not your business. That's more the safety commissions as far as that goes. The fact that it appears to me, and it was mentioned to you, instead of having your normal 9-inch curb, on a vertical manner, if we have that they have the slope curbs, but it also mentioned to me that the sidewalk is moved further out into the street, actually, as far as its physical location. When I go down there, I do try and go slow, especially when the school is in session. That's when the 15 mile an hour should be applied, is when the school's in session. And I frequently, when somebody's trying to get out of the car in a hurry, especially in the rain to get their kids out, they're getting out the other side of the car. They're jumping out of their car on the driver's side, and their doors go out into the travel. I just would hate to see that be 2 feet less space there. I frequently end up going into the other lane, or at least hugging the line, just because you never know when someone's going to come bolting out of their car, which does happen on a regular basis. I find that it's obviously going forward, but I feel that some of these design flaws possibly could have been addressed. And in the future, for other projects here, maybe we won't have COVID and people who we consider ourselves functional engineers. So they have an opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Ken. Are we ready to move on to item 6, the rental inspection program?
Yeah. So we had talked in the past about, issues with businesses in the downtown and what we could do to incentivize uh, property owners to improve their buildings, rent their buildings, just basically address the need to revitalize our downtown. Um, One of the projects that a number of cities are taking on right now is a rental inspection program. And I thought this was interesting and sort of timely and something that I wanted to bring to the EDC to think about. Um, Riadel is going through this right now. They just introduced an ordinance to do a rental inspection program, and this was kind of in direct relation to the earthquake and the number of houses that ended up being red tagged through that process due to substandard conditions. Did you read? And kind of a lack of enforcement capacity by the municipalities to be able to hold uh, landlords responsible for providing safe and adequate housing. A lot of tenants with this extreme housing crisis that we have are, are scared to bring up issues of substandard housing or problems with their rentals because they're afraid to lose, their place to live.
They're
And
afraid that if they say anything, their rent will
their
go
rent will
up.
go up. Yeah. So this program, this is Arcata's program. Arcata has this program. Riadel is getting ready to do their second reading to implement a program, and these are programs that are being implemented in other cities. So I wanted to bring it to the EDC as just another option for us to do some further research in and think about as a mechanism possibly to utilize to maybe get a handle on some of the issues that we're experiencing. We have problems just as the city. We get complaints from tenants regarding housing, but it's very difficult. Like I said, people feel very intimidated to be able to bring forward a formal complaint. And without those formal complaints, the city is a little bit hamstrung in our ability to be able to take into action. We do refer people to tenants' rights organizations to be able to provide assistance, but having something like this might be something that's necessary at this time and could be something that the city considers. So this is just kind of a cursory look at what Arcata's doing. And like I said, Riadel's going through this right now.
This would just be single family and duplexes,
This
not
is just,
multifamily.
yeah. So Arcata right now, they do this for single family and duplexes because their fire department does the inspections of the multifamily and commercial buildings. So there's, you'd want to look at this and see kind of what works for the city of Blue Lake. But like I said,
What
it could be something to
what would an
consider.
inspection entail? Is there a
Yeah,
checklist
so the
or
city of Arcata has a checklist, and they had a lot of information. So I can print a packet for you guys, but if you go to their website, they have there's their FAQ, they have a trifold brochure that gives information, and then they have a checklist. They also allow landlords, owners to self-certify. So basically, you can go through the checklist and say, "Yeah, my rental meets all of this. I'm good." And then the city can do follow-up inspections as necessary. I'm not sure what the impact is if you self-certify and then the city comes out and does an inspection and finds that you basically lied on your self-certification.
are there
Um,
fees for the inspection?
there is, yeah, I think it's 20, I think it was like $20 or something, and then it's like a $79 charge or something per year or something. So
Can I see that maybe?
yeah.
So this would have the effect of increasing the rents because I would assume these costs would be passed on to the tenants.
Yeah, and we already do a landlords, anyone who rents anything in the city of Blue Lake technically has to have a business license. So if you're a landlord and you're renting, you have to register with the city, and it's $50 for the license, and then there's an assessment for the number of units per parcel. So that, I mean, you could maybe work it together and make it just part of the process. Maybe you increase that fee, but it includes costs associated with this.
So the stated goals of this program are to approve the units for the tenants?
Yeah, I think overall the safety of the units in the
Health and
community,
safety.
health and safety, vibrancy in your community.
Take a look at this. Yeah, I would fully support that. I mean, just speaking for personal experience, the farmhouse I lived in Blue Lake was owned by a person who has many rentals in the area, and they are all in very similar condition of not very well, and you know, rodent problems, mold problems, wiring issues. I mean, all sorts of things that you know they're not going to fix without this sort of program.
But
So.
this sounds like it's um, it's not mandated. It's just a a landlord would choose to be involved in it.
What if the lease stipulates that the tenant is to maintain these areas or?
Well, and it goes both ways. So that's
Yeah.
one of the things they talk about is it's not always the landlord that's the problem. It can be the
It's true
tenant
too.
as well. And we have those issues as well in the city where you have tenants who, who destroy homes or don't take care of things. And, we just went through that with one of our residents, their rental. It took them a long time to evict their tenant. And by the time they got a handle on the house, it was thousands and thousands of dollars worth of damage. So it can work both ways as well.
And would it be mandatory if the city were to implement it?
I think those would be our things to consider.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's a self-certification. Huh?
What would the enforcement mechanism be?
Well, you get an inspection, and then if
If you
you
don't pass inspection, you get a fix-it ticket. And
probably, yeah. I
then
mean,
if
we go
you-
through our building department. Yeah. You get a health and safety code violation.
I just worry that the renter would, you know, take the brunt of the cost in the form of a rent increase.
Yeah, I think the goal though is to get these units to a standard where you don't have those ongoing problems. And so that you're not continuing to have that burden placed on a tenant to absorb those costs because they wouldn't be rented without them being at a state that was at a standard condition.
And I don't think it has to be anything too crazy, but I mean, the things on this list to me are
basic health and safety, but
pretty basic health and safety.
Mhm.
I mean, again, just speaking from experience, it's just that some landlords don't want to fix those things because they'd rather just pocket the money.
or maybe they don't have the resources. Some of these could be very
And if
expensive. This
that's
is like
if that's the case, yeah. I mean, it depends.
And you've got to look at the amount of money these landlords are getting from these rentals. I mean, you can't get a rental in Blue Lake now for under $1,800. A 2 bedrooms going for $2,200 a month in Blue Lake. It's just ridiculous.
Uh,
If this ever gonna make the rent go down,
Well, the rent's not going to go down anyways.
probably just like a sensor,
Right.
so my truck doesn't get stolen again. But I don't know. I think it's just something to think about. I'd
Mhm.
need to know more about it if I
well, here's the inspection
decide
one.
it's one way or the other.
yeah, I think it's a good thing to consider.
Well, and with the certification, I don't know if would help or not, but maybe that's where you would have a list of rentals or houses that are certified, and then when people are looking for
Yeah.
a place, then maybe that's information that you could provide to them when
Yeah, absolutely.
I also think it could be a nominal fee that's not going to impact
Oh, the
tenant,
repairs
you know?
are
Yeah,
what
the
would be
repairs.
the
Yeah.
repairs.
Yeah, I
would be
mean, the
expensive.
goal isn't to
They're gonna
use
have to
this
be
as a
included.
mechanism to make money for the city.
But I
And
feel
that's
like
why they make
No.
it a very small amount. The
Just to
goal
cover
is,
the staff costs.
yeah.
it'd be worth looking into to see if that's even legal for the landlords to do to pass those costs along.
Yeah.
Because
Well, there are tenant rights associated with that about how much you can raise rent,
it's
and
based on
And there are
mandated
exceptions to those
Yeah.
too.
yeah, and because they're coming from mandated repairs from a building department.
Mhm.
Well, then maybe the property is no longer on the market at all.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's true too.
I mean, it all looks like pretty normal, common, practical things. Nothing seems out of the ordinary.
But we have a fairly old housing stock.
We do.
though.
We sure do. But it's, like I said,
But
rentals here are very,
maintenance
very
is not,
expensive.
maintenance does not improve with deferral.
No.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've just seen like my old landlord. I'd be like, hey,
This.
let's put rodent wire down and stop the rats from coming in. That would take you a day to do and a pretty limited cost, but they would just keep putting poison
Which
down.
you would have to do to sell the property.
Exactly.
presumably.
Or insure it. Or I mean, it's like there's all these other things that I don't know.
There are some very
Yeah.
difficult situations out there.
Bad actors out there.
Yes, there
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
I think the majority of houses would fall within those regulations
Mhm.
of passing.
Yep.
You know.
Probably.
And maybe what you do is if someone is certified, then you can, if the fee to a license fee,
Maybe you waive
Reduce
it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, or remove, lower it down or something like
Yeah. So just as part of our other conversations we've had in the past about, downtown and um, incentivizing investment and cleanup and improvements, this could be something that's kind of part of that, those tools that we have to do that.
And that wouldn't apply to commercial properties. It would just be.
It would be up to us to decide.
Hmm.
I would want it to be applied to commercial properties if you were going to do it for sure.
Maybe just for the
Health and safety is definitely important.
especially if you're paying that much for rent.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Are there any more comments? from
Do the
commission?
tenants can request an inspection? Are they, do they have to say who they are, or is it, what's the word?
Anonymous.
Anonymous.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
I would
too.
assume so.
Anonymous.
that.
Perhaps.
To have this address inspected.
Well, in my case, it's a fourplex, so they might not know. But I mean, I just want a light. That's all. Well, I don't have any feeling one way or the other strongly about this.
Are there, have we seen this? Is this working in Rio Del or is it?
They're just getting ready to implement it. So they're going their second reading of their ordinance.
I mean, and they've had some pretty catastrophic damage.
They have, and we have some fairly old, housing stock as well. And I don't think that we're in the same position as Riadel necessarily.
We could be,
But
easily.
we get a lot of, we receive a lot of information from tenants
I have-
about situations. And like I said, it's very difficult because tenants don't want to, go much further with it because they do feel intimidated by landlords.
Yeah, and a
Yeah.
pest problem at one property can spread to
Absolutely.
Yeah,
It brings down
that's true, too.
property value, I mean, it's it has our
fire damage.
absolutely.
That increases insurance costs for everybody else.
Yep.
Yeah.
It can be pretty impactful.
Are we ready for the public comment portion?
They may have changed things, but there's no exemption to the landlord's ability to pass on actual costs. I'm
Actual costs?
I believe actual cost. Yes, you can prorate those out, and that is what will happen. Most likely, what will happen in the circumstance of you were being probably charged. I'm going to go raise my rent, so I got 4-bedroom, 2-bath units that are less than $1,800. So I guess I'll give them to 3,000 today. So that's not legal. 10% is the most you can do at a time. I've kept mine low because I can.
And a 60-day notice, I believe.
A 30-day notice if they've only been there a short time. 60-day if they've been there after I think it's 6 months or something.
Yeah.
But what you're going to find here is a lot of these our housing stock here is I guess you'd call it country style or rural style housing, and there'll be most of these places will probably have $30,000 to $50,000 worth of to get rid of mold, to get rid of all the problems you had in yours, and of course that will no longer be affordable housing. It's not affordable now because the landlord's an asshole, but it's just, it's a, excuse my French, but basically, the problem I ran into, and I've had tenants on all kinds of things, and I think Darcy don't remember any complaints. Like she said one time, we leave them alone if we don't hear a whole bunch of things. The rent stays the same. I've got a place up here on 230 South Railroad. I think they're $850, and that's been that way. Their rates have gone up maybe $150 in the last 15 years. So when we can do that, it's great. But they take care of the maintenance and things, and that's kind of a back and forth thing. I've had people say, well, I would like a better sink. I want to do this. I want to improve that. And of course, they go ahead and do that. And that seems to work well, but not all landlords are of that nature. That's the problem. You will find that if I have to do $30,000, even $10,000 of repair on my building, I will give the 60-day notice and move the tenant out. I will do that thing. And then, of course, the rents will adjust for the new tenant. I mean, that's just pretty well, I believe that's totally legal to do besides a project of that nature. And it's common sense. You're not going to go in there disrupting someone's total place and rewiring and tearing everything apart and expect them to stay there. So you may find there's some major unintended consequences regarding your buildings. If it's too much money, the building will be vacant. And then people will move in and it probably will burn down or something of that nature. So that might be an unintended consequence. Regarding commercial space, well, it's plain and simple. You don't have a tenant in there. It's not a rental, and you just leave it vacant, and then you don't have a problem with anybody as far as a tenant in there. So highly recommend that you consider something, maybe a different kind of policy. If you do have something that has a stick in this nature, the CBDG loans or something like that are something that you would consider. I've been led to believe by John Ford that that's money that's able to be spent. They're administering it now. The county is actually administering it. And if somebody qualifies as far as a low income tenant, I think then they qualify for that money. So
Thank you. Thank you very much. This brings us to item 7, the Del Arte fundraiser discussion. Do we have anything going for that?
No, I just had it as a future agenda item to bring
we've
back.
it sounds like they
Yeah.
met their fundraising goal
yeah.
and exceeded
That's
it.
what I read.
Well, and they're at the co-op.
Yeah,
hitting
the roundup.
fundraising,
I
so,
expect they'll pull in easily another 10,000 doing that.
yeah,
Because January is the member appreciation
Yeah,
month,
yeah.
so that should be a good one for them.
yeah.
And they've got a new slate of classes. There's some good updates. There's a lot of good news coming out about what's going on. So
And I think that was a community-led one anyway.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
okay. Does the public have any comment on item 7? Thank you. And moving on to item 9, chamber report, and we don't have Emily. Is anyone at the chamber?
Justin, do you want to give a chamber report?
Chamber report, boy.
You can pass. Wait.
Yeah, let's do that. Everything is on the computer, and
It's
being
okay. Fair
I
enough.
can say that the chamber is uh doing some really great things. They've got some new members, some new enthusiasm. Justin is now, are you the secretary of the chamber?
Right.
Emily was elected as the chair. So that's exciting. So there's a lot of, just talk about ways that the chamber can support business and kind of what their role is and starting to do some more outreach. Also partnering with our, our local neighboring cities to do some cross training and outreach to see what other chambers do and how some of that information can be brought back to Blue Lake to help support what's going on here. So we've had some pretty successful events in partnership with the chamber. We did the holiday dinner. That was super fun. They've been really great at partnering and lending support where they can. And so I think there's just kind of a little bit of renewed enthusiasm. And like I said, with some new members, some of those members are a lot of them are business owners or represent businesses. So that's great too. So I'm really excited to see the chamber continue to do good things.
We were thinking about doing a taste of Blue Lake. We're trying to figure out how to get people out to Blue Lake when the sun's not shining and it kind of involving pizza, doghouse, Prash Kitchen, Lager Bar, Jewel Distillery, and the Mad River Brewery, and it kind of morphed to, well, it's kind of a bad time of year to be walking around. So then it morphed to doing something inside, and a couple people couldn't do it, and blah blah blah. And but we're thinking still with the chamber of doing a taste of Blue Lake when the weather gets better, and I think it's going to be a really fun event.
Mhm.
And then went to a chili contest on New Year's Day that was really fun, and over at James Brown's place, and he was thinking, yeah, it'd be fun to do a barbecue contest. So that might be something that we could do with the chamber and do it
Yeah.
at the park and with all the tables and uh, when the weather's a little better.
Yeah, we were just talking, we were working on our February, March programming and then thinking about spring, summer, for Parks and Recreation. And that one of the things we talked about was doing at least like a one larger event a month. Like I said, we're going to do the karaoke one in February. And then just looking at like what's like kind of because we don't have the capacity to do a lot. Our
Once a month is a lot
it's
too.
a lot
That's
of
a
work.
lot of planning.
It is. And so if we can work it so like each event brings in and partners with, if we want to do a barbecue event, we work with you and Bill and, the brewery and stuff. And so that we can start just keep those connections going and keep that outreach because it's all, the recreation economics really is that opportunity to leverage your recreation to support your businesses. And so
Yeah.
keeping us all connected and
Like do some event and then include it with the bicycle
absolutely.
folks, and then
Yeah.
maybe some horse event
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
something.
absolutely. I mean, look at the winter events that we had, this year were great, or the December event. So we had the horse story tour, was highly successful. We had, the parade and the holiday dinner. Those were really
It's really
successful
fun.
as well and fun. And so things like that, it just kind of helps everyone, especially in the winter when things start to, get dark earlier and people are kind of like cozied up at home more, getting them to come out and see Blue Lake and experience that and just helps the businesses.
Bingo, is that still going on?
Yeah, I think the chamber has the next one, right?
See, for us, it was a good fundraiser for the
Hmm.
museum and for the one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun.
February 19th or 27th. They're working on setting up my lake.
Okay. Yeah, so we can get back into the swing of the monthly bingo. It's a great fundraiser.
Where do you get tickets for that?
We usually just sell them at City Hall
Okay.
or whatever group is sponsoring it, sells tickets as
Be a
well.
good time for Natalia to do a pop up, or
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
absolutely.
good,
Yeah.
a food truck to come
Hmm.
out, or
Yeah.
in conjunction with.
But that would be great because what we ended up doing is, and it turned out well, we got pizza from Blue Lake Pizza.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it would be nice to be able to have somebody else make
Mhm.
some money on it too.
Mixteca.
Later.
Yeah.
So for the chamber one that they're holding, the Blue Lake Pizza Company, we are talking about possibly having them do pizza.
Uh-huh.
And then the kids are trying to raise money for their 8th grade trip. So we were going to have them come in and sell popcorn and possibly baked goods.
There you
But
go.
those are communications that will be happening that have not happened yet.
Mm-hmm.
But the Blue Lake Pizza Company was great for us because I learned a lot of stuff too. Is that I probably got too much of some of the wrong stuff. But what was really good about it is they were willing. I could call them up and say we're getting low on such and such, and they'd cook it up and
Hmm.
bring it over.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
great.
No,
Service.
it was great, and we're so happy to be part of it.
They're a
And
great little group.
Yeah.
They're doing really well. Yeah, I mean, those are things, the holiday dinner we did with Haywans, and that was really fun, and it's a great partnership. And they both live in Blue Lake, and so now we're in conversations for them to use the kitchen more and do more food and maybe help us with our skate concessions and things, so that we have you start to have another pop-up restaurant, is
Oh.
actually operating, which would be really nice. So they could do like to-go meals, family meals, or you could come in and eat at the skating rink, bring your kids, they can go skating, play arcade games and whatever. So there's a lot of just a lot of good partnerships happening, but we all need each other, and so the city does have a little bit of capacity just to help, with some marketing and things, but we are a little bit limited, but
You're a small staff.
we're a very small staff,
Very
but but it's good. Like I
Small but
said, we're
mighty.
kind of spreading it all around, and everyone's, seeing some benefit. So it's great.
Great.
Does the public have any input on item number 9? Okay. This brings us to item 10, the city manager and staff report. Um,
Yeah, I don't think I really have
No.
too much to add. I don't know if you guys have any questions about anything that's going on in the city. But yeah, these were
we've
kind of
covered
our big projects.
Thank you. This is really exciting, and there's a lot going on.
There is a lot. Yeah. It's exciting because a lot of our projects are actually going to construction. So that's like but it's also like super stressful. I told Mike Bogut, I'm like, I don't even like you to call me anymore because I'm like, oh no, Mike's calling. Because it's like, we've got to get the resolutions, we got to get this. Because, in the spring, summer, we're going to have the Greenwood project, we're going to have the Town Square project going, work on the bike park. And, there's just a lot of things that are like we've been working on for so
And
long,
we're starting to
but now we're
develop
going to construction, so that's really cool. But
construction.
yeah, yeah, there's a lot of work that it goes into that as
And
well.
all those construction crews are going to need food.
Yes, they do.
Are there any comments on item 10? Moving on, the announcements for there's
Yeah,
no
just keep looking at the Blake Happenings page if you want to
Blake
see what
Happenings.
events are going on in town. We're up to over 1,500 followers now on that page, so that's great.
Oh, it's
Um,
on Facebook.
yeah, I know. But if
we
you
can
have to follow
kick it
anything,
over
do
to
that one.
Insta, I might see it.
I'm just
But
like, I'm so
Just
not
have
there
Greg
yet.
tell you.
that's a good idea.
Yeah. So
Um,
that's we just use that strictly just for events, positive stuff. We don't allow any of the political stuff to come in.
well, that might be okay.
Yeah, we don't want, we want to try and, keep the image of Blue Lake out there with fun events.
But I have theories and ideas.
Yes, there's another page for them.
Okay, sorry.
It's not this one. Yes.
Do we have any future agenda item ideas at this point?
Just probably keep the same.
Yeah, keep the updates.
Well, at this time. Oh, Kent, yes.
We skipped announcements, so I'd like to drop back to that one quickly.
Oh, yep.
I believe there's a dinner, a Grange dinner tomorrow night or something like that.
Second son. Oh, a dinner.
A dinner, I heard. Is that correct?
It's a Grange monthly meeting.
Yeah. So Grange monthly, but it's a dinner or something also.
I think Patty Johnson's going to provide some soup or
I
something.
just had heard that. Also in town tomorrow night is to be a meet and greet. Was be scheduled with our 2 supervisors. But apparently Mike Wilson declined to come if his opposition is going to be there. You're going to meet one, I guess. And I guess he wants to have another one just to meet himself. Or I don't know. That's, I just heard that one that's been put on, and I think that's at the Presbyterian Church tomorrow night or something. That's probably out there.
I think he had other time. I think he had other engagements.
Well, he did give a window. I was told he gave a window, said he'd be available after a certain time, and then he recanted on that.
Who's the other person aside from
His name is
Wilson?
Roy Gomez. He's there
Sure.
running for the 3rd district, and
I know
just
Roy.
a good chance. You can get a feel whether you're proving somebody or not. It's always good to talk to them directly. I did wish to on your future agenda items, I wanted to make note that according to what's on the web page, I believe, or on the bulletin board, 3 of you term out on the 31st. And I don't know whether you make applications then. The one person who's not here tonight's term out actually shows on the bulletin board as far as being the 31st, January 31st of 2023. So maybe that's why she's not here. But you might want to check into that. There's sometimes rules and regulations regarding participation if you're termed out and you haven't been reappointed. So you may wish to get that on the next agenda's meeting, or maybe there's a policy where you automatically get on there. But I think it has to be reappointed. So that's something you may put on your agenda to do other check into. I could be incorrect, but
Some of us have 2-year terms and some of us have.
yep, it's staggered.
Yeah.
I think there were either one was 2023, maybe that's 2025 now, and then there were two other ones on there for 24 January.
I think I'm.
You are. Nice to see you at your last meeting. Thank you for your service. No, you just want to cross your T's and dot your I's, as far as that stuff
Yeah.
goes.
Thanks, Ken.
That's
Thank
all.
you for bringing that to our attention. Can somebody see if they can hear that? Actually, I just sent one in, but
I think you're good because you did
so.
just re-up.
because usually I set my reminders on my calendar to expire when the term is up, and hopefully I notice. Thank you. There being nothing further on the agenda, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I will motion.
I can second.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.